Today I'm with Clare, a UX researcher and someone who is active, and I might even say edgy, on LinkedIn. On social media and in my general network, I've noticed over the past few months an uptick in people looking for work. So my purpose with this new series is to get people more exposure by giving them a platform, perhaps provide motivation to others, and hopefully learn a few new job search ideas and tips by creating this community where people can inform, share, and be edutained. And speaking of being edutained, I have a guest today, Clare. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, you're not shy on words. As I said, you're a bit edgy on LinkedIn. We'll dive into a little bit more of that. But before we do, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, totally. So I'm coming to you live from my home in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I'm actually in my office right now. I try not to lead with my job, although unemployment is currently what my job situation is. But I am a dog mom. I'm a gardener. I'm a writer, and I'm a public speaker, and a data nerd. And I try and often fail at gluten-free baking. And yeah, so I worked in the field of UX research for 10 years. I was laid off at the end of May of this year. So I'm currently on the job hunt. And I've lived a number of different professional lives. So I've also worked in academia, doing research and teaching. I've worked as a college administrator. I've done consulting as an organization administration and like organization leadership and change management consultant and a wilderness guide.
Say that again.
I was also a wilderness guide.
Wilderness guide, as in
Yeah.
outside,
Yeah, as in
walking around and
backpacking.
taking tours and not getting eaten by bears. I guess that was part of your job.
I mean, I'm here, so I've been at least marginally successful.
Very much so, yes. You had mentioned that you're currently looking for a job.
Mhm,
So what were you doing before
mhm,
that,
mhm.
that and then you left? And then I want to ask, the question is that I have, is finding a job a full-time job?
Ah,
So
got
there's
it.
different
Okay.
different views there. So tell a little bit about what you were doing.
Mhm.
We'll get
Yep.
into what you're doing now that you have all this available time.
I was working at a company called Unite Us. I was the associate director of UX research. So I was leading a team of UX researchers and also conducting UX research. And I had been there for 4 years. I built their research program from the ground up. I was laid off due to a company restructure. And I don't have a lot more information on that because most of the time when tech companies let you go, that's all they tell you is, hey, your role is being eliminated due to a restructure. Do you have any questions? All right, cool. Well, here's your severance. So it's not really a very human centric experience, and I don't really have a lot of information regarding kind of the why.
Well, that's the downside of capitalism. The good side is everybody can have a job and make money. They can leave. The downside of it is everybody can get laid off and they don't, it is what it is. So,
Yeah.
and I think it's interesting, being a bit more experienced than you in the career wise. I remember when these types of changes weren't as prevalent. I think it's the technology field that makes it more prevalent because technology changes so quickly, and that means the technology business models change quickly as well. But that's a different topic. But I think that's what I'm seeing now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
you're talking a lot about AI. So
I think technology is changing a lot, but I also think the nature of how tech companies are funded has a lot to do with it. Tech startups, they get their seed funding, they maybe have some success, they'll do a Series A, B, etc. And as they're kind of approaching, especially maybe going public, maybe getting acquired, or possibly doing their next raise, they're often trying to figure out how do we look good to investors? And sometimes that's things like our R&D budget is too high, or our headcount is too high, or we didn't spend enough money, right? So there's all different ways that comes out, but I do think that's a huge factor in layoffs. And then yeah, I mean AI. I think right now because it is changing so much and companies are chasing it so hard, it is impacting the way companies are structuring themselves and how they're kind of what they're aiming at.
I've also seen people discuss, they almost call it a white collar recession, or white collar, I don't know, job changes or something like that, because I haven't seen anything quite like this in a long time. Maybe that's the disruptor that AI is creating. Any any major accomplishments that you've had in your career, or things that you'd like to highlight or showcase, or that a company might say, hey, this is the person we need right here?
I mean, I think I could hit on sort of outcomes that studies that I've done. For example, I worked on a process, a research project where we were taking, a company that we had acquired and combining their workflow with our workflow so that we could basically make everybody's customers happy. It was a long project. I led the research portion of it from end to end. And when we were all said and done, the workflow was actually, the time to complete it was half the time it took to complete it before. So it wasn't just about making people feel good and making sure we had parity in which customer group got which features. We were able to accomplish all that, but we were also able to make it more efficient for everybody so that they could, and it was a referral workflow. So, they can go in and they can complete referrals on behalf of a client who is in need, and maybe connect them to more resources more quickly because it doesn't take as long.
Yeah, so you hit on one of the things there, the metrics on the
Yeah.
resumes. People like to see metrics on the resumes, dollars saved or time saved or more money made or anything like that. So I think that's a good tip right there that you hit
Mm-hmm.
on. Have you ever heard of the STAR interviewing process? It's like when people ask you a question, and you kind of hit on it right there as well. It's you have to explain the STAR situation. The the T is, I forgot. Somebody will have to chime in and tell me. The T is either the task or the trouble. A is the action that you've taken, and R is the results. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of generically speaking you should have an answer for all those, based on top 4 or 5 things that you're talking about. But you kind of hit on that without even knowing what it was.
No, I'd never heard of it.
So what, I'm going to have to study it now because obviously I didn't do a good job of explaining it. But so what are you looking for?
I'm looking for senior level roles in UX research. I'm equally comfortable being an individual contributor and a manager. I'm also comfortable with a role that's kind of a hybrid of the two. That's actually been the majority of the roles that I've had in UX research, managing people and I'm doing research. It's not super common in tech, but I really enjoyed it. So last week, I officially launched a strategies company that's providing kind of data and insights, and I'm specifically going to be targeting startups. It's called CLC Strategies, and I am going to be the sole researcher and strategist on the team. So I'm also seeking potential clients to do either project-based work in research or in AI implementation and strategy.
So you started a startup for startups. I was taking notes here.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Are you also looking for funding? We talked earlier about how businesses get funded. So,
Mhm.
are you bootstrapping it all yourself?
I'm not building products, so I don't
There's
really
nothing to.
need to search for funding in the same way. Certainly it costs money to start a business. I work with an accountant, do my business filings, all of those things, and paying for a website and some of the other overhead. But consulting is relatively low in terms of overhead.
Hmm.
And so depending on how many clients I can line up, I can usually make my money back pretty quickly. I've done consulting in the past. I've always done it on a 1099. So I'm now kind of putting it underneath the umbrella of a company. And I've been having conversations with potential clients for the last few weeks, which is really what inspired me to make the leap and actually file the paperwork.
And how did you find these initial clients or prospects?
From my LinkedIn postings.
Oh,
So yeah, so most of them are people I know who, when they found out that I was out of work through LinkedIn, reached out and said, hey, would you be willing to do some contract research for us? We can't afford a full-time researcher right now. Would you be willing to maybe have a chat about the study we're working on or the product we're working on? So get on the line with them and learn what it is they're up to, and start moving forward on getting some research done.
Interesting. I just I'm currently working on another session, and the gentleman that I was speaking to, he basically he started a consulting company he himself, kind of like you, but his first prospect was somebody that he worked with at the company that he was laid off from. So it was a
Oh wow.
technology space, but similar,
Hmm.
sounds
Hmm.
similar. So that might be a theme as well. I like these themes and tips.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that I did was I went to a women's conference, a women's leadership conference here in Worcester. And I went to network, to learn from people, but I also went because I was testing names for my company to find out what might be a good name for people to understand, or just what resonates with them. So I went with a name tag that had a name for the company on it. I also kind of just voice tested a bunch of different names while I was there. And as I was just chatting people up and doing my research, I generated a few potential leads there as well. Those folks aren't in technology. One of them is actually, they do permaculture landscaping, which
Permaculture. I
is
don't even know what
interesting.
that is. I know what landscaping is. That's about it.
Um, so permaculture operates on the principles of trying to create kind of closed loop systems. So a permaculture farm, for example, might
Mhm.
take the waste from cows and then use that for their corn and then feed the corn to cows, and you create like a loop. Or using rainwater to water your plants, things like that. So these folks are really good at that. And honestly, I almost want to just do a word trade. I'll help you and you do my backyard.
The barter system.
Yeah.
You also, it's interesting, you said you were name testing or something like that. On LinkedIn,
Mhm.
I remember you also posted something about doing a test, but with
Mhm.
exclamation mark.
Yeah,
Can
it's
you tell
true.
us about that and if there's any results yet or
Yeah, so yeah, I gamify everything. I think that's why I'm good at UX. It's a big part of building products that are sticky and people use them. And so I was spending a lot of time responding to people's requests to connect on LinkedIn. The post that you mentioned earlier, where I was talking about, getting free work from somebody, um, I was getting dozens and still am getting dozens of people who are connecting with me as a result of it. It's approaching 600,000 impressions on LinkedIn. So I basically went viral on LinkedIn, which there's no money in that. So I should have picked a different platform. But I've been getting all these responses. So every day I'm going in and I'm reviewing them. And I guess here's a tip for people. When somebody hits you up on LinkedIn or when you hit them up on LinkedIn, once you have made the connection on LinkedIn, you want to leave yourself a breadcrumb that tells you how you talk to that person or how you met them. So if I'm at a conference, I'll send a message, hey, it was so nice to meet you at this conference. But if it's you sent me an invite or I sent you an invite, then what I write back is, hey, thanks so much for accepting my invitation to connect, or thanks so much for inviting me to connect or sending me an invitation to connect. And there's no way to automate those. So if I have 48 of them, I have to copy and paste 48 of them. And I'll take the time to do it because if I need to contact that person in the future, I want to remember how we, met, quote unquote. And so I realized without really any intention, sometimes I was using a period and sometimes I was using an exclamation point. And it was really just dependent on my mood. Like I'm feeling period today. I'm feeling exclamation point today, depending on how I was feeling. And I started thinking about it, and I did notice that when I used an exclamation point, it appeared that people were more likely to respond back and be like, hey, thanks, same. So I said, I'm going to conduct this test. And like I said, I had this huge influx of people that were sending me requests. So I just did 100 of them and I randomized it, period, exclamation point, period, period, etc. and then looked to see responses. And I got a 45% higher response rate for folks when I used an exclamation point.
And higher meaning, so this was your response to them, correct?
No, would they respond to me?
Oh, they respond to you.
Yeah. So they would send me an invite. I would say, thanks for inviting me with an exclamation point. And the folks that got exclamation points were more likely to
Oh, yeah.
respond.
As in another iteration of
Yep.
the discussion. Okay.
Mhm.
And well, that's an interesting strategy. You're the first person I've met that really looks at that level of detail. So maybe that makes you unique.
Or it just makes me a big nerd. I'm not
A
sure.
nerd, perhaps. So let's go back to that the link that you the original link. The
Mm-hmm.
one that what I have in my notes 350,000, but you said it's getting close to 600.
Yeah.
Okay. What was that post about? And I mean, I know what it was, but tell the listeners what that
What it was
was
about.
and what's happening.
I was in the third round of interviews with a company, and they asked me to do what they called an aptitude test. And they sent me a significant amount of work to do and to deliver to them. They asked for a strategy document. They asked for me to do quant analysis and qualitative analysis of survey data. And they also asked me to deliver a slide deck that outlined the findings from that data that they could present to an executive team. Conceivably, they asked at least 3 other people to do this, because I was told there were 3 other people that were at the time a part of the process. So it felt like a lot of work. I felt uncomfortable by the request because it was very much aligned with the role that I was doing. So I knew that whatever I provided them would be applicable to that role and that they could use it in that role, whether they hired me or not. And I don't think I would have done it except for when I met with the hiring manager. She really hyped me up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the words she used at the end of the interview were, well, I have a few more people to talk to, and if they're as good as you, it's going to be a really hard decision. And if they aren't as good as you, it's going to be a really easy decision. So I left that meeting going like, I rocked it. Yeah. I was feeling really good. And so I thought, all right, well, I'll do it. So I sat down, I wrote the strategy document, I did all the analysis, created the slide deck. It took me at least 12 hours. It might have been more. I wasn't documenting the time, but I was working on it really consistently. And they gave me a deadline for it as well. So I was working on it in a very condensed timeline. I sent it off to them and eventually found out I didn't get the job. So I wrote a message to the recruiter and I said, I believe that what you did was ethically gray at best. And you now have my strategic knowledge. You have my IP, and I don't have a job for it, and I didn't get paid for it, and I could have easily charged you $2,500 for that for that work that I did if you had been one of my consulting clients. And I said, I'd really appreciate it if you would not use my work in your strategy going forward. You made it sound like you've hired a really good person for the role that's better than me. So I feel confident that you don't need it. That's me. I did it more succinctly than that. But I wrote it up, I sent it off, and I sat with it for a little bit and thought, I know I'm not the only person that has been through this.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's in it right now. And I don't want to see especially younger people get taken advantage of in the way that I had just been taken advantage of. I was also hoping there were people out there that had some ideas on what I could have done better that they would share with me, right? I wanted to learn as well. So I thought, all right, I'll be a little vulnerable. I will admit that I screwed up and that these folks took advantage of my willingness to give them my IP to get a job. And so I redacted the piece. And so you can't tell what company it's for. And I wrote a post about it and shared a screenshot. And in my post, I talk about how I understand that this is something like right now, everybody feels kind of like they have a gun to their head and they need to just do whatever they need to do to get a job because they're unemployed and they need money and health insurance and all the things that come along with being employed. And there's got to be better ways to do this. And hiring managers take notice. You should not be doing this. And I've been managing people for 20 years, and that included hiring. I have given aptitude tests. And when I give aptitude tests, I have been very, very careful to make sure that the test is short and that it is not related to the role so that nobody feels like we're stealing from them. And I feel like I've gotten excellent skills assessment from doing that, and I haven't stolen anyone's IP. So I provided examples of what I've done. And then I was like, I understand. I screwed up here. I would have done it differently. And I posted it, and it clearly resonated for people. And it's just been a floodgate of people sharing their own personal stories of how this has happened. People saying this is, this happened to me 20 years ago. This happened to me yesterday. Designers and researchers and engineers, but not just in tech. I've been seeing people from other sectors, higher education, which is another sector that I've worked in. I definitely saw it happen when I was working in higher ed. And then just a floodgate of people sending me DMs, telling me their story as well, or sending me an invite to connect. And as soon as I send them my message with a period or a question or an exclamation point, them responding and telling me their experience. And for about a week, I responded to literally everything. I don't have time anymore, but I invested a lot of time in just like validating people, calling out the people that decided to be jerks, asking the people that decided to use it as a marketing opportunity for whatever product they're selling to people who are unemployed. Like, hey, can it? There's a lot of people that are upset right now. And this post is a catharsis for people. And also making sure we elevated the really great ideas that people offered on how to avoid this happening. And that's, I think, the thing that I like the most. And I'm quite literally keeping a list of them. And I fully intend on employing a number of them if I get asked to do an aptitude test again.
Yeah, you struck on something there. What do you have an opinion on? Well, it sounds like you do. You probably have an opinion on everything. And I meant that nicely, of course. Like I see a lot of it, people in the comments sections, especially on LinkedIn. I don't want to make this a LinkedIn session, but that seems to be popular in the business world. The people getting on there selling resume services or take my 2-week webinars or, just sessions, training sessions or whatever it is. There seems to be a lot of people taking that route. I mean, selling it. I don't know if they're getting much business, but you've probably seen that as well.
Yep.
Any opinions there or?
I think anytime there's a problem to solve, people are going to look to get paid to solve it.
Yeah.
And clearly we have a significant problem with a lot of people being out of work. LinkedIn is the place people are going to. So it's a great place to try and sell those products. I have not seen that many products that I would use. I do have access to free tools that allow me to, work towards tailoring my resume for a role, or I don't use AI to write my cover letters, but I plug it into AI to spell check it and to make sure like the grammar is good. So like it's my editor after I've written it. And I think there's a lot of people out there though that are feeling desperate. It's very obvious to me, not just from the posts where people shared on my posts, but also there's a lot of people out there that are talking about, I'm down to my last dollar. I want to start a company, but I can't afford the fee to start the company. Can I, crowdsource that? So just, lots of people doing a lot of different things. Had a conversation with a colleague today, actually, about a headhunting service. And if they place you, they get 10% of your salary for the first year. And we were just trying to talk about like, does that make sense? Like, would that be worth it? I did the math on it. If I got a 15K bump from my past salary to my new salary, and then I paid 10% to a headhunter,
Hmm.
I'd still be 4K less than what I was making at my current, like in my job at Unitas. So, and like that scales. So the more money you make, 10% becomes bigger and bigger. So you need to make more above your salary to get that to work out without taking a pay cut that first year. And for some people, it's worth it, right? They've
Yeah.
got kids that need health insurance, right?
Yeah. That's the scary part. Um, this because this is a personal discussion. This is the reason I do this. I've never seen social media, especially LinkedIn, which is a business platform, be so personal. I've never seen that in 20 plus years. So it's a very interesting thing. And it's interesting because I say part of me says I hope the stories aren't true.
Mm.
That it could be like, artificial intelligence or something like that. But so I hope that's not the case. But I also hope that those people aren't going through the trouble that they are. So I don't know where I am on those comments, but it's a sad state.
I think if someone's willing to be that vulnerable in any forum, let alone a forum that's focused on sort of business, my instinct is to believe them. Um, the people that are scamming you are the people that are trying to get you to give them bank account numbers.
Okay.
Or I've had a lot of fake recruiters try and reach out to me, schedule meetings with me, people that will offer jobs like immediately.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, send us your direct deposit information so we can send you your bonus, that kind of stuff.
So I would encourage anybody, don't go down that rabbit hole at
Mm-mm.
all. If you get nothing else from the show, don't give anybody your information or what's interesting is because I just reached out to you out of the cold, just out of the blue. And you didn't know me from anyone, but you accepted the invitation. So, and because when I started doing this, I'm thinking these people might think I'm a scammer, and so I tell people I've got nothing to gain out of this besides viewership. So,
Mm-hmm.
but you accepted it. What was your reason for accepting? I'm curious.
Honestly, if someone reaches out to me and asks me something, I say yes off the get-go, and then I go do my research. So, a good example is I got some random dude that asked me if I was interested because of my extensive experience in AI, if I could, get together with a CTO on a big project. And I looked him up. I looked at his company. I couldn't find any evidence of this person at all anywhere online. I immediately said yes, though, because if it's true, I want to jump on it. But then I'm going to go back. I'm going to dig through my research. So for you, I actually went and looked up your podcast. I, looked to see, what it was you're talking about. And you didn't have any postings in this series yet.
Hmm.
And you had said it was new. So I was like, okay, so this is a person. They do have a podcast. And I was like, what on earth does supply chain have to do with this? And then I was like, well, in some ways, we're experiencing a breakdown in the job supply chain
The
right
job
now,
supply chain, that's good, and
you
that's a neat
know?
perspective. Yeah, I didn't
So
think.
I was like, all right. When we chatted on the phone, and I felt really good about coming on the podcast after that.
Yeah, so I kind of see it as a mission for me, but it's not about me, it's about you. So do you LinkedIn, you use LinkedIn? Do you use the paid version or you like the premium or just the regular? Just curious.
I do use the premium. I like the unlimited messaging,
Hmm.
and I like being able to see who's viewed my profile. And it's been really helpful with this post going viral because
Hmm.
I'm now able to see like what looks am I generating and from where. And I use it to make connections with people. Um, and I will probably transition to the business version at some point
Oh yeah.
so that I can work on lead generation, but I'm not quite there yet with my business.
Okay. Yeah, that's a question I get often is should people go with the premium or not? So I guess it's individual.
Mhm.
What about the green badge open to work? Do you have an opinion on the green badge?
I had someone ask me about this the other day, and so from my perspective, I want it to be as obvious as possible that I'm looking for work. So to me, I have it up. I don't intend on taking it down unless I get a full time job somewhere. Um, and I'll be real. I'm always open to work. I just don't always have the badge up. So I've had that open to work as long as they've had that secret open to work for recruiters. I have had that available because I do and have wanted to, hear what's out there. I think
Right.
that's a healthy thing for myself, for my family. And because my dad told me the first time I got my first job, called him up, hey, Dad, I got the job. Great. He says, now you can start looking for the job you want.
Start
And
looking
I was
for the
like,
next one.
what? And he explains to me that, it's easier to find a job when you have a job. And this from the man that had two jobs after grad school. He worked in two different jobs the entire time I knew him, the time he retired. So I don't know why that came to him.
Yeah.
He did not practice that. He stayed where he was. But it's been a good practice for me. But yeah, somebody asked me and I, gave my opinion and then said, if you'd like to crowdsource it, I have a lot of people paying attention to what I'm saying right now. So if you post it, I'll repost it and we'll see if we can generate some thoughts for you. And so that's what I did. The person wrote their posts and I reposted it and just said, hey, what do y'all think about this?
Yeah. I've noticed you, not that I've been spying on you, but I'm like you, I like to research the guests.
Mm-hmm.
You do a lot of commenting on other people's posts,
Mm-hmm.
which I think gives them, you're almost like an influencer, a LinkedIn influencer.
Oh my gosh. Like I said, I picked the wrong platform for
Yeah, I was
that to
going to say
get monetized.
we have to
Um,
figure out how to monetize it.
no, yeah, the other thing I've been trying to do, and I did it today, on one of my blog posts when I shared it to LinkedIn, and I did it. Actually, I think there was a scheduled post I had today about job searching as well. In both posts that I put out today, I tag people in it, and we should be hyping each other up, right? That's important in order to give people visibility. And if I'm having a moment right now where people are paying attention to me, well, I'm not trying to be a product manager in AI, but I know someone who is. I could push that person's name forward. I'm not trying to do design thinking workshops, but I know someone who is, and I might as well put his name forward, right? And help it, pump people up, amp people up, create,
Mhm.
greater reach.
So you had mentioned something earlier that I think you even said the word, I'll have to review. There's a problem in the job market or
Mhm.
something like that. What makes you say that, and what do you think the problem is?
Most simply, there's just not enough jobs to people right now. I think we're looking at a transformation
Hmm.
of what it means to work specifically in tech, and it's very much driven by the interest in and hype around AI. I think a lot of companies are trying to figure out how they can get their piece of that, and they're being pressed by customers, by board members, by investors to do it because these are folks that see that there's money in it and want to see what you can do with that. And so, there's a lot of companies that are reorganizing themselves.
Hmm.
And then there's a lot of companies that are just trying to be more efficient and they're trying to kind of quote unquote replace people with AI. So, we've got these two waves that are leading to large amounts of layoffs. And it's all happening really fast because it's all moving really fast
Hmm.
and everybody's terrified of missing out. Um, and I think what'll be very interesting is we're starting to see, I think, some shifts and some changes around that outlook. So there's companies now that, you know, took AI in, and decided they're going to embrace AI and they don't need people for certain tasks. And I think they're starting to see the limitations of AI. There's a lot of people out there that will say it can do anything. And I'm an early adopter. I like to play with these tools. I sign up for every free trial I can get my hands on. I could probably give you a list of about 15 or 20 companies I've looked at in the last month. Most of them don't deliver what they say they're going to deliver.
Hmm.
They're delivering something that's AI powered, but it's not going to do what you want it to. They're very good about saying this tool does this thing in a way that they're not lying to you. But if you don't configure it right, if you don't have the right skills to utilize it, or if you just misinterpreted what it's saying, you're going to get disappointed, and you're going to and you're going to get disappointed to the tune of 20 or 30 bucks minimum, if you buy the product and decide to roll with it for a little while.
That also includes the internal costs as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds SaaS, software as a service, sounds more inexpensive or more feasible, but you just still have to change your business.
Mm-hmm.
That's the change management side is still there. I don't think AI is going to take that over.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have to those are still costs that you have to absorb. So even if you don't like the new AI, you'll still have to change your business back to the way it was before, if there's a change involved.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I don't know where that came from, but that's where it is.
Yeah, I think we'll see a transformation in the kinds of jobs that will come back to us. Yeah, I'm already noticing some different titles emerging as I'm kind of looking for roles.
Hmm.
I stopped searching by title and started searching by task or expertise levels. And as a result of that, I'm starting to see some different stuff that I'm applying for that the title doesn't match, UX researcher or research manager or whatever, but instead takes all the skills that I use to do what it is they want done.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm writing that down.
Mm.
Search jobs by task, not title. Is that like in the LinkedIn or Indeed or those places? Is that what you're talking about? The
Most of the time I'm using like a Gemini or a ChatGPT for that.
Oh.
It's a little harder to use the kind of more standard keyword search engines. They don't scour quite as hard.
Hmm.
Whereas like a large language model can pull phrases. It's some weird stuff too, but I found that that's actually been really good. The other thing that I've been doing is, there's a list of companies that have products I like, and then I also come across new companies every day, and I'll just look at their jobs boards, which tend to be more up to date than LinkedIn, because like LinkedIn is pulling from jobs
Hmm.
boards, and or the companies are posting a job and then posting it to LinkedIn. And so, I spend a lot of time just like looking at what's out there. And then I start to find things that are, skills aligned, but aren't title aligned. And then I start looking for those titles.
Interesting. So you use things like Chat GPT and Gemini
Mhm.
for the job search?
Yeah.
See, that's new to me. I never even thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, I use a bunch of different kinds of prompts, but I get kind of like creative because, you know, things like, find me roles that require 8 or more years of experience that, expect you to be able to, I don't know, use Pendo as an analytic tool to understand workflows, right? Like that's very
It
specific,
is.
but they'll find it. The tool will find it, and a lot of times it's stuff I didn't even expect because it's like one line in a JD somewhere that is a job that I would have completely passed over otherwise.
That's worth the cost of the show right there, I think. For anybody listening, I'm writing that one down as we say. I'm going to go after this and start looking myself.
Yeah.
So it's
um,
interesting, the JD, I assume you meant job description.
yeah.
And I saw a couple comments where people are saying, based on these job descriptions, there's not a person in the world that can do all this stuff.
Sure.
Have you seen that as well? And I don't know if it's just a wish list of what everybody wants, but
Hmm.
that's a strange one as well.
As a person who's crafted job descriptions in the past, I want to spend time thinking about what it is I need in the role, what I want that person to be able to do. And yeah, in some ways, it is a wish list. I think companies are being more specific and asking for more for a couple reasons. One is there are more unicorns out on the market right now. So you can look for them and try and hold out for them. Also, I do think that there are companies that want to deter people from applying because they're getting flooded with applications
Hmm.
from people that aren't qualified for the role. But also, I think you know you want to see what you can get, and so you put stuff out there hoping you'll get all of it, but you're not gonna. Which is why when I coach people or work with people on job applications, I say apply. Just apply for the job. You're 60% qualified for the things, do it now. Just apply. And there's a phrase out there that's approach it like a mediocre white man would. They just put out applications. Just
Do it.
just assume you're the best person for the job. Just put yourself out there as much as you possibly can, because no one will see you or notice you if you don't. Right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So take a lot of shots.
Now, do you apply like using the click here to apply on the job boards, or do you go to the company website, or yes,
Most of the time you're redirected to the company website unless it's the easy apply on LinkedIn.
easy apply? Yeah.
I usually go to the company website because there is a lag between the website and what shows on LinkedIn. So I don't want to waste my time going through a LinkedIn process and then find out later that the job doesn't exist anymore. So I usually go to the company website. Also, I want to look at the company
Hmm.
before I apply. I'm not just going to apply because it's got the title that I think it needs to be. I got very kindly offered an option for a referral to literally any job at a company from somebody who read my post, the viral post. Sent me a note, said, "Hey, I work at this company. There's thousands of jobs. There's got to be something that would work for you. I will just pick a job and I'll refer you." And I actually got a bunch of those, but this one in particular stood out
Really?
because yeah, and so I went online and I looked at the company, and they make missiles. I don't think I want to build missiles. I don't want to create the digital products that allow us to deploy weapons that kill people. Some people are comfortable with that, and I'm not going to go into that, but that's not for me. Also, what does the user testing look like for that? It sounds terrifying. Um, so,
Yeah.
but it, so I want to look at the company. I want to make sure that it's aligned with my values, and making missiles is not values aligned. The other day I found one that I had no idea was values aligned because the name of the company was so weird that I didn't have any idea what they did. And it was an edutech company. I was like, I love education. Let me get in on that.
Well, your area there's a lot of technology. You're close to Boston, is that correct?
Yeah.
There's a lot of technology up in that area. So do you want to
Hmm.
stay in where you are? So you're looking
Yeah.
for like a remote job, or
Yeah.
unless they're local, then you can go to a.
Ideally, I'd be doing remote. I'm willing to be hybrid for the right salary. I'm not sure I'm willing to be in office every day, but we moved here. We moved here in 3 days. We will have moved here a year ago.
Oh,
And my partner owns a massage business and runs it out of our house. And I'm a co-owner. We've been working to stand this company up and build his client base for a year now. And we're not going to give that up to move somewhere else unless we absolutely have to, because he's really starting to get some traction in the community and seeing clients more regularly. And it
yeah.
takes a long time to build that up.
So you're two entrepreneur family, it sounds like, now that you have
Yeah.
CLC started. Yes, CLC.
Yep.
So as we wrap down with you, I'll just go into my summary of what I've heard is you started a company, which is a good strategy, for people that are between opportunities. Look at things like contracting or consulting. Maybe you don't have to be as formal as starting a company, but keep that in mind. I've got another show that we'll talk about that as well. There is a disruption going on in the job market. So we talked a little bit about that. I got this one here. Maybe if you've got a good idea and you want to explode, I don't know the word. Maybe you can come up with the word, but you can influence people's comments. I mean, if you have a post and you can comment it on it and turn it into 600,000 impressions. So I'd say
Yeah.
become your friend if you want that. Search jobs by task, not necessarily title. That was interesting to me. And then use AI to help find a very specific niche job. And then my last thing is about you. I started off by saying you're edgy on LinkedIn, so maybe being edgy can have its benefits. So I mean, based on what
Yeah.
you said that you're getting people that say, "Hey, I don't care what the job is or who you are, I want to refer you." So that's an interesting spin.
I believe that when you put something out in the world, you'll get it back threefold, which is why I try and put out like assistance and help and support and compassion and empathy, because that's what I want back from the world. And I feel like I've gotten more than what I mean, I don't know if deserve is the right word, but I've gotten way more than I expected back, especially from that one post, but certainly from my time on LinkedIn. I leveraged Twitter really hard
Okay.
after the recession. When I was unemployed during the recession, and when I got my first job after that, I was trying to raise some awareness on some important issues and also possibly find some opportunities for some side hustles because I was deep in debt at the time. And my friend taught me how to use Twitter, and I just loved it. It was fantastic. And I found a way to get out there and be me and be authentic. I use it as a sounding board for myself, and I combine it up with blogging. So, like, I now have a Medium blog, and LinkedIn is kind of the space I'm working in right now. For me, it's about being authentic and having my own voice and being true to that voice. And then also, like I said, putting out what I want back.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. I mean, the fact that you're here talking to me, I feel fortunate that you accepted the offer. So, and I also learned looking at my notes about vocal fry.
Yeah.
Somebody, and now that you explain or you shared it with me, now I can't get rid of it. I see it everywhere, and it's very annoying. I'll just leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that. But
um,
and I don't know if it's just trending or what, but I haven't studied it that much. But what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? I assume you would connect with people if they sent you a LinkedIn request.
yeah, absolutely. Send me a LinkedIn request. I'm going to be, I just this morning completed a basic version of my company's website along with my research portfolio. So I'm going to be putting that out for people to look at. So if you're interested in seeing what I can do and you'd like to look at my portfolio, please let me know. I'll send it to you along with the password. And yeah, if you're looking for somebody to do some contract work for you, if you're looking for somebody who is going to bring strategy, leadership, and data to your team, let me know.
Now say that again, strategy
Strategy, data, and leadership.
and leadership. That's good. That's a good thumbnail or a good elevator pitch, I think so. And you'd be fun to be on a team with, I can just tell. I don't know anything about UX research or anything like that, but just being on the team would be fun.
I have been told that before, and I was at one point, somebody suggested that I put Dean of Fun on my business cards, so that to kind of demonstrate the value that I can bring to teams.
This has been great for me. I enjoyed this as this has been more for me than you. No offense, but I appreciate it. But I want to thank everybody for listening to this new series. It's I don't want to call it the job seekers. Just we're out there to give people hope and inspiration. But we have three goals: give the guest a platform, such as Claire, Katie, she's taken great advantage of the platform, by the way. Provide motivation and hope to others, as I see a lot of people in different points and different emotional states on LinkedIn. So just rest assured you're not alone, and hopefully share job search ideas and pick up some key points. And I've got about a page and a half of key points just talking to Claire today. So thanks everybody for joining. And if you're interested in being a guest on the show, feel free to reach out to me direct at Chris at thescdr.com.
So I want to tell one more story. I talked about the idea of like supporting and hyping people up and putting out into the world what it is you want back. And When I got fired, there were 13 of us that got fired in a 2 hour span on the same day. But there had been a number of people in bits and pieces and that had been fired before us, and there have been some people since, and there have been people that have left Unitas and gone on to other roles and gotten laid off there too. So there's like a little crew of people that are all kind of alums of our company, and because I was unemployed during the recession, I knew how lonely it could be to be job hunting. You're not doing a lot, you know, a lot of money. At the time, I was actually sleeping on people's couches. I have a much more fortunate position today, but I didn't want to do it by myself. So I sent a note to the folks that had gotten laid off, the original 13 people that got laid off around at the same time as me. And I invited them all to a Slack group, and I called it Rising Tides, because rising tides lift all boats, and built it out, right? So I said, we're going to do this. Anybody who worked at this company at some point who's looking for work may join. We want to have like that connection. So we're a closed group for Unitas alumni only. But we have a page for sharing job postings. We have a channel for reviewing people's resumes, reviewing people's portfolios, providing referrals, making connections, side projects. And it's been amazing because someone will pop in and just say, "Hey, everyone, I've got a job interview. I would like somebody to help me run some interview questions. I haven't interviewed in a long time." Someone will respond, "Hey, everybody, I have a startup. Can someone review my prospectus? I'm going to set up a time." People show up. People have shown up to review each other's portfolios. I was actually connected with someone who's giving me a referral to a role through this group. And so I share this because I think we all have some level of community that we could be doing this with, and Slack is free. So if you haven't worked at the company that we created this around, I can't give you an invite to that. But if you would like me to tell you how we structured it to kind of create the community, I will share that to anyone who wants it so that they can spin their own up.
So Slack is free? I thought that was like a business application.
They have a freemium version for small, like there's, it's limited. So there's a lot of things you can't use it for. But the basics are all there,
Yeah.
and that's what we need it for.
Did you say freemium?
Yeah, freemium.
I just keep learning. This is fantastic.
I didn't make it up. You don't credit it to me.
Well, you're the first person I've heard say it, so